My Two Blankets by Irina Cobald and Freya Blackwood. Good morning 2W. We're very lucky today to have a fantastic book to read. Let's read the blurb. Cartwheel has moved to a place that is so strange to her, she no longer feels like herself. This is a story about new ways of speaking, new ways of living, and new ways of being. Have you ever moved to a new house, a new school, or a new country? How did it feel? Was it strange, scary, or different? Did you make friends in your new home? Let's read the story. Auntie used to call me Cartwheel. Then came the war, and Auntie didn't call me Cartwheel anymore. We came to this country to be safe. Everything was strange. The people were strange. The food was strange. The animals and the plants were strange. Even the wind felt strange. Nobody spoke like I did. When I went out, it was like standing under a waterfall of strange sounds. The waterfall was cold, made me feel alone. I felt like I wasn't me anymore. When I was at home, I wrapped myself in a blanket of my own words and sounds. I called it my old blanket. My old blanket was warm, it was soft, it covered me all over, made me feel safe. Sometimes I didn't want to go out, I wanted to stay under my old blanket forever. The story continues, but we will now look at key textual concepts, beginning with narrative, perspective, and structure. The narrative is developed through a series of statements. For example, the statement, "Auntie didn't call me Cartwheel anymore," moves the narrative along by letting the reader know that something significant and life-changing has occurred. The narrative magnifies Cartwheel's point of view. The author wants readers to respond to Cartwheel's perspective. Readers' own experiences will also shape their response. The narrative begins with a complication, and the sequence of events evoke feelings in the reader towards Cartwheel and her experience of the world. The narrative contains a message about the impact of kindness and friendship. Another key textual concept in this text is the representation of the main ideas, including community and belonging, cultural displacement, the experience of people with refugee backgrounds, kindness, friendship, and resilience. The notions of community and belonging are represented in the first illustration. We see people engaged in a range of activities, animals grazing, and houses closely located to one another. People are engaging with each other and have a clear purpose. This looks like a peaceful, happy, busy, connected community. In this environment, Cartwheel is independent, exuberant, and feels that she belongs. Cultural displacement is represented through a range of techniques in the text. There is no dialogue in the text. This absence of a voice emphasises Cartwheel's isolation and loneliness. We never learn what Cartwheel's other name is. This is very effective in suggesting a loss of identity. In this image, people are sitting close together but are not speaking or looking at each other. They look disconnected from one another and they aren't engaged in any purposeful activity. They wear very different clothes, their skin's much lighter. Cartwheel and her auntie stand apart from them, huddled closely together. These visual techniques are very effective in emphasising Cartwheel's sense of cultural displacement. Another main idea represented in the text is the experience of people with a refugee background. The two blankets are a metaphor representing the development of dual identities, an experience common to young people with a refugee background. The old blanket also symbolises a place where Cartwheel can retreat to. Cartwheel lives with her auntie, and her other family members aren't mentioned, representing the loss of family members, possibly through separation or death, another experience common to refugee young people. Odd symbols rain down on them, representing unfamiliar words, symbols, customs, and norms. Let's look at the presentation of one character, the new blanket. The new blanket is woven from the cool colours of the new world and the warm colours of the old world. A multitude of symbols and shapes represent new words and new experiences. The new blanket grows bigger, softer, and more comfortable. The author and illustrator use the blankets to represent Cartwheel figuring out how her old and new identities can coexist. As the new blanket grows, Cartwheel's body language changes and she appears more confident and engaged in her world. The text is located in the contemporary realism genre. It is set in the contemporary world, has recognisable settings, possible situations and realistic characters. The park is where significant events take place. Initially, the park is depicted as a gloomy, sparsely populated place where the smokestacks and the trees are indistinguishable. As Cartwheel's identity and sense of belonging grows, the setting changes, the sky clears, the number of participants increases, and there is a stronger sense of community. The colour scheme moves from cooler colours to warmer colours. Cartwheel is becoming more independent. Were these participants always there? Perhaps Cartwheel couldn't see her path. This illustration shows Cartwheel, her auntie, and a range of unfamiliar, larger-than-life participants. They seem unconnected as they walk in different directions and don't interact with each other. They appear to be busy, but their purpose is unclear. This image draws the reader into Cartwheel's point of view on her new home. The vector of the curved diagonal lines draw the reader's eye towards Cartwheel and her auntie, who are huddled together to form one shape. They have no discernible facial features, which expresses Cartwheel's sense of a loss of identity. The repeated lines create a reading path towards her. The man on the left has salience, with exaggerated features, emphasising Cartwheel's point of view that her new world is filled with strange and unfamiliar people. There is a congruence between the literary element of the simile and the detail of the repeated diagonal and curved lines, shapes and symbols, which appear to be raining down on them like a cold waterfall. Most of the shapes are odd and hold no meaning for Cartwheel or the reader. They represent the new languages and signs surrounding her. The street sign is also blank because it holds no meaning. None of the participants in the image demand our attention. The reader is an invisible observer. A high viewing angle of the participants in the foreground gives them a higher status and power. The angle shifts as we look towards Cartwheel, creating empathy with her as we see the world from her point of view. The scribbly lines around each character, choice of colours and the oversized participants creates a low modality image. Browns, golds and oranges represent the old familiar world. Blue, green, pink and pale yellow represent the new world. This colour scheme is repeated throughout the illustrations, including the blankets. Welcome back to W. Let's look at the statement, I will always be me. Who do you think is saying that? What does it tell us about how Cartwheel is feeling? How did the other girl's kindness help Cartwheel feel more like herself again? What does I will always be me mean? The focus on this statement will enable students to reflect on how Cartwheel has changed and what led to this change, leading to an exploration of the themes of kindness, friendship and resilience. 2W, let's do a language study identifying and interpreting similes. Like being under a cold waterfall, like being wrapped in a blanket. What do these similes mean? What words do they make you think of? Let's brainstorm as a whole class. Now in pairs, look for an example where Cartwheel looks like she's under a cold waterfall. You may use images or the text, and then talk about why you think so. Let's do the same for wrapped in a blanket. Our next activity is a creative writing activity, retelling the story from a different point of view. Choose one or more images depicting occasions where the two girls meet in the park. Write as much as you can retelling that part of the story from the other girl's point of view. You may like to use dialogue. Lastly, let's do a speaking and listening circle activity. Students are placed in 2 concentric circles and will take turns asking and answering questions about themselves and their family. Students will move around the circle so they have an opportunity to speak and listen to lots of different students. Students requiring extension will work on a welcome project, and the steps are outlined here. Students requiring support will work on identifying the main ideas in the narrative, and those steps are outlined here. The 2 texts I've selected to teach alongside My Two Blankets are A Mirror Suitcase and Two Mates. They explore themes of belonging, kindness, resilience, friendship, community and local settings. I have designed a cross-curricular activity called Connections Across the Globe. Students will interview a family member about connections their family has to other towns, cities or countries. They will create a pictorial display which will be exhibited in the classroom. The unit of work on My Two Blankets meets the following New South Wales English syllabus Stage 1 outcomes.